think so. Anyway, yeah, I think
They
that would have been.
copied it and they gave him a copy.
Oh, yeah.
I just missed that anymore because I went down. I better drink some coffee and request them more.
So we're doing Bible studies, the third one in the book. It's on page 37. So this is the third
for sure.
flourishing in relationships. Yeah. So if at any point you don't want to, we usually take turns reading and stuff like that. If you don't want to, you don't have to. We always have the option of not.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Well, I'm just telling you, I don't want you to feel under
I
stress.
want everybody to feel at ease.
Yes. Please, we want you to come back.
Yes. They're kind of in there for responsibility. Yeah. Okay. Skill that.
Yeah,
We kind of sound the watermelon.
Exactly. Probably all the words. That's okay. Okay, so let's start with the prayer. God, we are grateful for your gift of holy friendships.
Thank you for placing friends in our lives to walk alongside us in faith. Strengthen these bonds so that we might serve one another with love, courage, and wisdom. Help us trust your grace as friendships grow and change. Let us remember that it is by your hand that we are brought together for such a time as this. Amen.
So that's perfect.
Mhm.
Okay. So here we go. Relationships aren't always comfortable. At times we find ourselves navigating the painful work of growing and changing within relationships. How do we draw on the stories of our faith to help us face great challenges in our lives and our relationships? In this final session of our Bible study, we'll explore the story of Esther and her uncle Mordecai, as well as how vulnerability, trust, and faithful friendships help us to grow. I love reading fantasy novels, especially those that involve magical kingdoms, a dragon or two, a wizard, or a sorceress. The world building in these books draws me in. While I'm reading, I'm wondering about the political and social dynamics, as well as what might happen as the characters fight for freedom and liberation in their magical world. In the Bible, the book of Esther feels like this kind of text. If you haven't read it in its entirety, I encourage you to do so. However, for this study, we'll focus on just two major passages. To fully understand a text like this, it helps us to do some world building, since, like a fantasy, the book of Esther is a story of kings and queens, evil plots, heroism, courtly intrigue, and revolution. When the book begins, the Jewish people are living in exile under the rule of the Persian Empire. Their future is uncertain. We learn the cost of this uncertainty in the very first chapter, which describes a party the king hosts for dignitaries and rulers. At one point during the party, he commands his queen Vashti to appear so that he might show off her beauty. But she refuses. Angered, the king consults with his advisors, who encourage him to banish her, strip her of all her rights and property, and command her to never be in his presence again. As readers, we can immediately see that this king is rash, quick to become angry, and obsessed with his own power and the appearance of his power before others. From all appearances, this will continue to unfold in terrifying ways. Now, without a queen, this rash king starts to feel lonely. Imagine that. So that he can select a new wife, he gathers up all the young women in the kingdom. Now, we hear of two characters who are at the heart of our study: Esther, a Jewish orphan, also known as Hadassah, and her cousin and guardian Mordecai. Esther is brought to the palace with all the other young women, but Mordecai instructs her to hide her Jewish identity. In contrast to Vashti, who disobeyed the king's order and was banished, Esther follows her cousin's instructions and molds herself into the kind of woman most desired by the king, a woman with no identity beyond what he desires her to be. Yet even as Esther enters the court, difficulties rise for Mordecai and Esther within the ranks of the Persian court. When an official named Haman, the bad guy, is promoted, other advisors to the king prostrate themselves before Haman. For reasons not revealed in the text, Mordecai refuses. His friends and other members of the court come to him, urging him to lower himself before Haman. In this moment, Mordecai doesn't just refuse, he also reveals that he is a Jew. This information, paired with Mordecai's unwillingness to bow to him, kindles Haman's anger. Haman strikes out with incredible, deadly intent, stating that he will not just hold Mordecai accountable. Haman intends to murder all the Jews in the kingdom. To sum things up, Esther the orphan, hiding her Jewish heritage. Mordecai, who had held the king's favor, lost it for his refusal to bow before a new advisor. And that new advisor, Haman, has instigated the decree to kill all the Jewish people in Persia. Now, we'll pick up the story by reading chapter 4.
Chapter 4.
Esther 2.
It's 4. 1 through 11.
I think so.
Mordecai asks Esther to help. When Mordecai heard about all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on a rough cloth and ashes, and went out into the city crying loudly and painfully. But Mordecai went only as far as the king's gate, because no one was allowed to enter that gate dressed in rough cloth. As the king's order reached every area, there was a great sadness and loud crying among the Jewish people. They gave up eating and cried out loud, and many of them lay down on rough cloth and ashes to show how sad they were. When Esther's servant girls and eunuchs came to her and told her about Mordecai, she was very upset and afraid. She sent clothes for Mordecai to put on instead of the rough cloth, but he would not wear them. Then Esther called for Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, chosen by the king to serve her. Esther ordered him to find out what was bothering Mordecai and why. So Hathach went to Mordecai, who was in the city square in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told Hathach everything that had happened to him, and he told Hathach about the amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasury for the killing of the Jewish people. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the order to kill the Jewish people, which had been given in Susa. He wanted Hathach to show it to Esther to tell her about it, and Mordecai told him to order Esther to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and to plead with him for her people. Hathach went back and reported to Esther everything Mordecai had said. Then Esther told Hathach to tell Mordecai, all the royal officers and people of the royal states know that no man or woman may go to the king in the inner courtyard without being called. There is only one law about this. Anyone who enters must be put to death unless the king holds out his gold scepter. Then that person may live, and I have not been called to go to the king for 30 days. That's it.
11. Yeah, that's a lot. So, Carmen, you want to read some monster cards?
Have you ever been in a situation where you felt there was no good options left and no path toward making things right? This is where Mordecai finds himself. His people, all the Jewish people in Persia, are about to be killed by decree of the king. There is no way he can fix this on his own. Like other people in the Bible who felt completely adrift, Mordecai tears his clothes, covers himself in sackcloth and ash, and waits at the city gate, wailing and crying for his people. Queen Esther hears about his actions. Fearing for him, she sends clothes he can change into so that he will stop. She doesn't seem to understand why Mordecai is acting this way and what could happen to her people. To Esther, this reversal must seem confusing, even terrifying. Mordecai was the one who told her to hide her Jewish identity. Suddenly, the plan has changed. Without her knowledge, while she has been growing in stature and comfort within the palace, Mordecai is different now. Even her gifts can't change him back to the person she once knew. Esther sends a servant to find out why Mordecai is refusing to put on new clothes and acting so strangely. Mordecai lays out the whole story and sends her a copy of the decree, hoping that Esther will go to the king and ask him to save her people. Mordecai provides Esther with the reason to change their approach, as well as the documentation proving that this is a dire situation. Yet, even with the paperwork and the story, Esther isn't ready. She sends a message to Mordecai saying approaching the king, behavior that is against the law, would mean her death. According to Esther, she is powerless to act And even if she tried, nothing would change.
Alice, you want to go next?
Okay. How we change. If you were to peruse the New York Times Modern Love section dedicated to love and relationships, you might notice that the question of change comes up quite often. For example, how do you embrace change in your partner? How does retirement change you? What do we do with changing bodies and hormones, and how these make us feel in our relationships? The author of a particularly poignant Modern Love article about relationships changes states, I've had at least 3 marriages. They've all been with the same person. Change, it appears, is evergreen. It isn't possible to be in a relationship and not feel changes happening in ourselves, our friends, and our partners. But change isn't easy. For many of us, change brings up feelings of loss and fear. What happens when the people we love tell us that we need to change, and that the way we have acted or engaged with them needs to be different in the future? What do we do when our friends push us to do something different or to take a stand when doing so feels hard?
So, question number one is not a hard one. How have you faced changes in your relationship? The obvious ones are kids growing older, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And even when they still act like toddlers, we're not allowed to treat them like toddlers, right? Isn't that how it works? Hmm.
Or when they come into your life in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a huge
It's
change.
huge,
Yeah.
right.
Or when we choose to not be part of the family.
When we get married and get more,
I was just thinking
more
that.
in the family.
Mhm.
That does present a lot of
Changes.
Need for changes sometimes.
yes. So, in what ways did changes in yourself or changes to others impact relationships?
Well, with children, I think it added to all aspects of the relationship, whether it was your relationship with your spouse or your in-laws or siblings, and that I think there's a general shift in all the relationships that you have. I was just thinking when my family gets together, um, and the little ones that we add through the years, and that everybody wants to hold the babies and that, and you talk about, you go back and talk about different things from having your babies or what your kids have done, and that it just kind of broadens the relationships. It worked the other way too, I suppose.
I was just talking to my daughter today, and she was talking about her daughter, and I said, "Does that sound familiar?"
Did she deny it?
Says, "Yes, yes."
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm waiting to hear that from my son when it comes to his daughter. Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the day. It's not here yet, but it's coming. I can feel it. It's coming.
Carrie and I both, listen to our kids, and yeah, yeah.
What goes around comes around, right?
Remember that? Yeah.
What goes around comes around. Yeah. Paybacks aren't always as pleasant as they would like to be, right? Yeah.
Or saying, "Yeah, you're right, Mom. You're right, Dad." That's hard to do.
Yeah. Right now it's Liam. Liam is learning how to drive.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's a
I was
big-
right.
They live in the city.
Yes, yes, yes. And Molly makes him drive on the interstate
Oh, you're not going out on a country road or in the pasture.
or in the parking lot like we did at
Yeah.
Vermeer. No. So although I did have him drive, one morning on the blacktop, he drove up here. And he did okay. He did all right. Strange car, strange
Yeah,
place,
yeah.
that kind of thing. He did all right. But I can feel the uncertainty in his, you could just kind of feel the uncertainty. And I was thinking back to when the other kids were driving. It's like, when my kids were driving, it's like, yeah, I remember those feelings. It's been a long time.
It's like this is the first time they drive out of the driveway alone.
Oh, yes, yes.
Joel, but when
Yeah.
Joel did, it was like, because Joel had been driving all the machinery and pick 'em. But that first time, oh, please do God keep her safe.
Yes. Yeah, or I can remember the first time I sent Mandy. Mandy was our uncertain driver. She was, she didn't really start driving by herself till she was almost 18 because her brother drove her everywhere.
Yeah.
Because she had no reason to
Yeah.
drive. And she failed the driving test 3 times.
Oh,
Yeah. It was, it was not good. And every time it was for, kind of silly things like not knowing what to do at uncontrolled intersections. And another one was, she got all the way to the end of the test and she bumped one of the medians and they automatically flunked it.
oh,
It's like, oh my goodness. So, it just, just silly little things. And she didn't pass her driving test when she took driver's ed either. So, the first time she wanted to go on some Girl Scout trip and they were leaving from Des Moines. The Girl Scout office was in Des Moines. So she wanted to drive her. It was on a Sunday morning, and they were supposed to get up there by like 8, and then they were going up to the Mall of America, and then they were coming be home late, and then she's supposed to drive herself home. So we concurred that she could manage this, and blah blah blah. So we gave her the cell phone. That in those days we gave her the cell phone, the only cell phone we had. So just in case there was an emergency, she could call. But I gave her, she's like her father. She's directionally challenged. Very directionally challenged. There's no logic.
South instead of north. No.
No, there's no direction at all. She doesn't know which way she's going.
Oh.
She has no idea which way she's going. And there's no logic of if the sun is setting, that might be west.
Yeah.
If the sun's coming up, that might be east. There's no logic there. So she gets up there okay, and she called me. She says, "Mom, I got here okay, but directions were really good." I'm like, okay, good, awesome. Well, of course, she gets home and it's late and it's dark, and she's the kind of kid that she's like her dad. She pays no attention when someone else is driving. Somebody else is driving. There's no reason to pay attention. They know where they're going, right? So, well, I am to some extent too, but I do pay attention just so I know where I am, right? So I've given her instructions. The bypass goes around the south side of the point. I said you're going to get on, you're going to get on Highway 5, and you're just going to follow it around all the way to 163, and then come home to Pella like we always do when we go up to the mall. Okay, Mom. Okay, okay. Well, I get this. There's this frantic phone call. She called us when she left. And then there's this frantic phone call maybe 45 minutes later, and she is just beside herself, tears and crying and sobbing, and it's like, and her dad just couldn't. So I go, okay, honey, tell me what's going on. This stoplight, and I don't know what to do, and I'm like, okay, honey, tell me where can you tell me where you are? Right? Man, there's a Casey's and there's this and there's a stoplight. I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to turn. First thing you're gonna do, honey, is turn into the Casey's and shut the car off. Okay, Mom, okay. She goes, and I said, now, can you just breathe? Can you just breathe? Just breathe. No, tell me you left the Girl Scout office and you got on Highway 5. Yeah, and then the sign said Highway 5 this way. I said, and you got off? Well, yeah, Mom, you said stay. You said stay on Highway 5. I said, hey, yeah, but honey, it turns into Highway 160, Highway 65, and you keep going around. It changes? What do you tell me it changes? sweetheart, breathe. Just breathe. I said, now you're just going to calm down. We're going to get back on the road. I'll talk you through it. Okay, okay. So now you're going to get back out. You're going to go back the way you came through the stoplight, back up towards the It'll say Highway 65. And I'll just stay on the phone with you while you're driving. Okay, I see it now. I said, "Now get on the ramp. Use your blinker light. Get back on the highway. Merge on." I said, "Now you're gonna go to 163 and get off and come home to Pella." Oh, okay. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm all right. Oh my God. It's just like, oh, okay. Like with Leo the other day, it was like, yeah, I could just kind of hear the uncertainty. You can just kind of feel the tension. It's like, yeah, this is a little. I don't drive on roads like this, Grandma. I usually have 4 lanes. And it's like, well, welcome to our world.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the story
Yeah. It's driving so loud and grab and don't drive over 30 miles an hour. Yeah, it's too hard.
We didn't have any. I didn't take drugs.
No, but it's another experience.
And we actually didn't encounter any tractors or anything that particular. So
That's a good thing.
yeah. Anyway, sorry, we really got off track, but yeah, the changes of relationships, right? Yeah. My daughter still gets lost. Thank God for GPS.
Yeah.
Tell her.
Well, and some of those experiences can really kind of bind people together more.
Mm-hmm.
Because my grandson has his permit, and I don't remember where he needed to go, but normally I just drive him.
Mhm.
Well, he kind of likes my car,
Oh,
and so I didn't wait for him to ask if he could drive it. I just said, "Do you want to drive it?" Yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And he really did a good job. I mean, he's been driving by at that time for more than 6 months. It wasn't
Yeah.
like he just got it, but I just think sometimes when you let them know that maybe you trust them a little more than they think you should, it can kind of bring
bolster there.
yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Try, right? We
but it
try.
helps that he is a better driver.
Yeah. All right, Alice, shall we go on?
Okay. Author and speaker Rosella K.D. White refers to these kinds of relationships, one that can hold space for change as revolutionary relationships. In Love Big, The Power of Revolutionary Relationships to Heal the World, she argues that not only do revolutionary relationships change the people for the better, but they have the power to push people outside of the confines of private relationships in ways that have public implications. These relationships are holy because they are rooted in they are rooted in God's own revolutionary relationship, the Trinity. When we give thanks for God as creator, redeemer, and sustainer in worship, we're acknowledging the revolutionary relationship God has with God's self, loving us through the creation of the world, through the liberating action of Jesus, and through the sustaining work of the Holy Spirit. Drawing on this transformative truth, White says that revolutionary relationships with other people are also healing and life-giving, though never easy. You want me to go on, or do you want me to?
Yeah, maybe another
Okay.
paragraph or
Okay.
so.
Just as the Trinity is rooted in God's life, so are the relationships we pattern after it. These relationships, revolutionary relationships, involve risk and vulnerability. In our relationships, we are asked to risk speaking the truth like Mordecai, to risk being vulnerable and making mistakes like Esther, and to stay together even when things get messy. Through risk and vulnerability, we invite others into a deeper way of going through life together. We share what makes us happy and sad, what hurts and what heals, and we do this in a pattern of mutuality.
Therapists, when working with clients, often talk about how hard it is to risk sharing feelings, not just facts, but the people in our lives. Committing to vulnerability requires more of us than a list of things we did that day. It means sharing how we feel about those things that have happened to us. I feel hurt. I feel happy. I felt grateful. I felt alone. All of these are starters for risking vulnerable conversations with friends and loved ones, bringing us closer to one another. Rosella White points out that revolutionary relationships don't just require vulnerability and risk. To be truly revolutionary, they also need forgiveness, grace, diversity, and accountability. When we practice grace, this gives vulnerability a soft place to land. When we believe the best about others and ourselves, taking risks becomes infinitely easier. When we trust in God's forgiveness of us as a model for how we might practice forgiveness of others, we learn to love all of God's people. When we let diversity point us to relationships, we care for people who aren't like us, not just racially and ethnically, but in terms of what Rosella White describes as diversity of thought, economic background, identity, orientation, religious affiliation and lack thereof, geographic location, educational attainment, you name it. When we engage in diverse revolutionary relationships, it isn't for token reasons. It is because we've learned that we don't have to water down, assimilate, or integrate our identities, she writes. We can be the people we truly are when we recognize that we don't have to fear diversity in ourselves or others. Finally, in revolutionary relationships, we are held accountable for who we say we want to be, what we say we value, and how we show up in the world, White states. For example, Mordecai held Esther accountable, even when it was painful, so she could have the courage to take a stand for her people. Let's turn to this revolutionary part of the biblical text.
Okay, do you want to read it?
Sure.
Okay, so 12 through 17.
I don't know if you guys all have the same.
Oh, that's okay. We all mix them all up. But
There's totally different.
interesting. That's okay. There's
Um,
nothing wrong with that.
So
12 through 17.
Hattash
Sure.
gave Esther's message to Mordecai. This was Mordecai's reply to Esther. Do you think you will escape there in the palace when all of the Jews are killed? If you keep quiet at a time like this, God will deliver the Jews from some other source, but you and your relatives will die. What's more, who can say but that God has brought you into the palace for just such a time as this? Then Esther said to Mordecai, go and gather together all the Jews of Shushan and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. And I and my maids will do the same. And then, though it is strictly forbidden, I will go in to see the king, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai did as Esther told him to.
The words from this brief passage of scripture often pop into my head. Remember the game of telephone, where a phrase shifts and changes as it's repeated? I picture Mordecai sending a message to Esther to say, what if everything prepared you for such a time as this? So what about times when our paths forward seem hard and unclear, or we feel lost as we look toward the future? My telephone game version of Mordecai's message might sound like this. What if we were being prepared for such a time as this? Mordecai hears Esther's response that to go to the king without being summoned would be against protocol. He likely remembers what happens to the king's first wife when she stepped out of line. However, for the Jewish people, the situation is dire. So Mordecai, relying on the revolutionary relationship he has with Esther, tries again. Now he tells Esther that if the king is coming for the Jews, he won't stop. She herself will not be safe. Somehow, the people might be miraculously delivered, but Esther and her family be lost. Perhaps God's hand was in the process that brought her into the king's favor, Mordecai says. Perhaps she has come to royal dignity for such a time as this. Finally, Esther agrees. She tells Mordecai to gather all the Jews to be found in Susa and fast, just as she will. Then she will prepare to meet the king. If I perish, she says. So think about your relationships that have endured aging, changing political or spiritual views, and other forms of change. What about these relationships helped you to tolerate the difficulty of change? Loving the person, right? Probably. That seems the most obvious.
One of the times that it's hard is when you don't have a relationship and you move to a different place and you don't have any basis for the relationships. So basically you're starting from scratch.
You
And
just
have to
moving
like moving. Yeah.
Like who
Like-
trust or
Yeah. Or going
who
off
can
to
you rely
college
on?
or yeah, if you don't go with friends and that can be real tricky.
Well, I think too, it's, if you don't have a choice, or if you have a choice, I mean, that makes a difference too.
Yeah, if you're doing it because you know you need the job or
Yeah,
you know those are different
or you're
reasons.
just moving because you want to,
Yeah.
or or changing jobs just because you want to, or
Yeah.
or
It's different than when you have to.
yeah,
Agreed. Or you're being forced to. Like if you get evicted from your house or
yeah,
yeah.
or your house burns, or flooded,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
that
Yes.
kind
Or
of
the roof
disaster,
caves in.
yeah.
Or
Disaster of any kind,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or a house falls on a fence. Right? Or a tree falls on a fence.
Or on your house.
Yeah. So that is true. I think the reasons for why the change happened.
Yeah.
That can make a big difference. Okay, so in what ways has change hurt or helped in relationships? I think it's safe to say we've probably all had relationships that didn't survive change. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily bad reasons, just
No.
Just I think
the practicality
or how you handle it.
Handle
I
it.
mean, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
or how it gets handled on the other
yeah,
side.
yeah.
Well, I think one of those biggest things for me was you'd get close to somebody in a certain situation and then they would move.
Mhm.
And especially before Facebook
Yes,
and trying to stay in touch with somebody.
it was harder.
If they moved, it was like they were kind of abandoning you. And if you only knew them in, say, one situation and not a close relationship, then it was
More likely
really,
to not
really
make,
hard to stay
really
in
not
touch with them.
likely to survive.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
My mom had a hard time because she, had a really good friend. This was when she was a lot older, and this friend died, and then she, had another good friend, and then he died.
Oh yeah.
And it happened like 3 times. And it, that was really hard on her.
Yeah, I know my mom has been really struggling. She's the last surviving person in her generation in both of our families. So yeah, she very often asks, I don't understand why I'm the last one left. I just don't understand. And I know she's I know she's lonely sometimes, and then of course she has friends who have died at church too. So she's one of the older ones now. And I think she's just like, and she is definitely not a person that deals with change very well. Definitely not. No. No.
That's true of a lot of older people.
I would
Yeah.
agree, and I think the older she gets, the worse it gets. Yeah, she just doesn't handle. She doesn't handle the change. Oh, I think I know. I find myself doing that too. I do too. It's like, really, do we have to?
Yeah.
It's like Alice sitting in the wrong place yesterday in church.
Holidays and send the Rockies. What? Something.
When I came in the church, my sister says, "Do you have a pew?"
You're so I never in that room got to say no.
I said, "Wow, we do."
The other thing we sit there because the air warmer here. Or it's
Well, that is not altogether not the truth, too. I mean, that is actually very true.
Yeah, Gary has to sit where there's a light, right? So we can see.
Well, Cindy's like that when she plays. She's like the piano. That light is.
The church, the sun doesn't come in the window.
No, it does try to. But it's cooler. That's fine. It is cooler. That's right. They said something about, well, there's nobody sitting in the first 3 pews. Well, yes, there was. And you know what? In most Sundays, it'd be the first 5 pews.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure they know it.
true. Yeah, very true.
We figure too, if we sit in about in the same spot, if Julie and the kids come later, they
Then they'll know where you are. Yes.
locate us. They kind of look, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Revolutionary action in a revolutionary relationship. So you want to
Okay.
go on?
After days of fasting, Esther goes before the king, who grants her an audience because he favors her. What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? He basically asks. It shall be given you even to the half of my kingdom. Even though the king has said this, Esther is still afraid. So she asks the king to attend a banquet she will give to honor both the king and Haman. When the king agrees, Esther suggests that he comes to the banquet with Haman, and if the banquet pleases him, she will then offer her request. Meanwhile, the conflict between Mordecai and Haman continues to deepen. Haman is angered by Mordecai, who is still at the city gate. Haman decides to erect a gallows on which to hang him. At this point, we don't know if the wrath of a rash king will be ignited, if Mordecai will hang, or if the Jewish people throughout Persia will perish.
So she kind of summarizes this next section. So I think we'll just go on and just read the next part.
Okay, don't read
She
the
really, yeah,
Bible,
she
the Bible.
really reads the Bible.
Okay.
She kind of goes through all the Bible verses here. So
Okay, the banquet arrives, and on the second day of eating and drinking, the king asks Esther what she most wants. Without any of the hesitation she exhibited earlier in the story, she tells the king that she is Jewish, and if his decree is executed, she will be killed with all her people. Enraged at even the possibility that his beloved queen might be hurt, the king asks who has done such a thing. When Esther points to Haman as the culprit, the anger of the king is kindled. He orders that Haman, who tried to exterminate all the Jews in Persia, will die upon the very gallows he built for Mordecai. And the story doesn't quite end there. Esther also reveals to the king who Mordecai is to her, a beloved uncle. Now the king elevates him to an even higher status within his court. Esther then begs for the lives of her people. The king relents, sending out a new edict to all the lands of Persia. The Jewish people, both near and far, rejoice, for Esther has saved them.
okay, Alice, you want to go on?
The power of relationships. If you've ever heard a sermon on the book of Esther, you've likely heard passages that lauded Esther's bravery and courage in saving her people. At some level, what we've learned in this Bible study supports that Esther summoned great courage before a rash and chaotic king. And yet, this is a Bible study on healthy relationships. I want to suggest to you that it isn't just Esther that changes the possibilities of life for the Jewish people. It is the relationship between Esther and Mordecai that is most needed to call forth action. Revolutionary relationships are the kind of relationships that allow us to change, helping us to call forward our best selves. Victoria Atkinson White, author of Holy Friendships, defines holy friends as those who name the sins we have come to love, affirm the gifts we are afraid to claim, and help us dream the dreams we otherwise would not dream. She further writes that holy friendships are necessarily different from other friendships. Holy friendships demonstrate that we are held in God's love, that we are a part of God's bigger ongoing story in the world. As we look at the story of Esther, it's clear the relationship between Esther and Mordecai is a holy friendship, one where they can name sin, firm gifts, and help each other to dream about what seems impossible. Holy friends hold our past and help us to imagine a future, especially when we feel stuck and confused. Esther didn't know how she could approach a rash king, but through Mordecai's encouragement, she was able to see herself as more powerful than she had dreamed. She could act to save her people.
So can you name someone in your life who's been a holy friend? Thinking I'm not going to be myself, yes. I like to think that we have lots of friendships here.
The ladies yesterday made the comment that it seems to be a close knit church. And I said, yes, I would say that it definitely is. It's more of a family.
I noticed
And-
that especially outside after the worship service. People were just standing around talking and chatting and laughing. And I just thought to myself, wow. It took a setting outside to do that. Now, what is different about being outside? Maybe a little more relaxed, maybe a little more, I don't know. It just,
What was your comment? We were in the kitchen and Mardell and AJ were there and Darwin. And you said,
When I was growing up,
yeah,
we had Sunday school
first.
first.
Yeah.
okay.
And so then church was second, and we didn't go downstairs for fellowship or anything, so we gathered up front and talked and talked and talked.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it was like the Rileses and my family and Mardell's family and probably Darwin, the Myers, and we were always the last ones to leave. Couple. And it was always like, well, we should get going. And then so yeah, we were outside, I guess.
I don't know. You see that at inside church too, but not quite as much. I mean, every once in a while, but
Well, it was different.
yes, yes.
And it was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful
Yes.
day.
That's-
That made a huge difference.
Oh,
It could have been 150 degrees out there. I'm
Or
sure
rainy.
people would not have been that way. But
Passing the peace is different, though.
I agree.
People don't just shake hands with the people in the pew ahead
I
of them.
agree.
Oh,
Or behind.
walk over
Yeah,
people,
We're
it's
out
just-
and walking around where
There are times when my husband is like, well, there's a lot of sickness going on. We shouldn't do the peace. I said, yes. There are a lot of people who, that's the only reason they're here. It's because they need that human touch. Just
Connection.
germs or not.
Mhm.
We need that human touch and connection. We all need that. I mean, but
People don't want to, they don't have to.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
when I got a
exactly.
really bad cold or
and
something,
there
I
and
would
there
say,
is always
"Mhm."
and there is always hand sanitizer in the
Right.
pews. So yes, I'm a firm believer in we should just do it. Sorry, we should just do it. So yeah, I have noticed that too, especially after COVID. I have really noticed a change in the peace. People really are.
Do any of you remember, and I don't know who went, I think maybe it was Pauline and me, when they had the Esther thing it was at Waverly, I believe.
Yep.
Do you remember that
Yep.
lady that portrayed Esther?
Well, it was also on Iowa Public TV, I think.
Oh,
Well,
and I didn't get to see it all,
Branson,
but
I think they had the
Branson.
in the sight and sound.
I have
Did
the
you see
video.
that one? Oh,
I bought the video
Oh.
when we went down
saw that.
this time. I haven't looked at it
Oh,
yet.
but I mean, did you see the Esther one?
No,
Oh,
I
you
didn't.
bought.
We saw the
David's
David.
one. Yeah.
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 Didn't
I
see
talked
the
to
whole
Cindy
one.
Day.
What,
just
what a
the
lot of
speak
people don't
she
realize
had
is that
there.
the story of Esther probably isn't a true story.
Oh,
It's just one that was made up and added to the Bible,
Yeah,
but
I
it was
remember
added.
that now.
It was added for a specific reason to teach a certain lesson. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
That it probably actually has no historical validity. Validity, is that the word?
Yeah.
Yes, validity.
Valid.
Yes. Which I find kind of interesting because a lot of people would say, well, what's your favorite book? Esther and Ruth.
Yeah.
Those are my two favorites. You go, girl. So anyway, yeah. So I think as we talk about relationships, you think about how God is part of holy relationships. Whether they're formed in the church or not in the church, right? And then how if it's a healthy relationship, it should help you grow as a person. I think that's always the way to define what a healthy relationship is. A healthy relationship should never hold you back. It should never make you feel less than a person. Yeah. And I think sometimes that's where people get confused about the health of a relationship. There's always give and take in relationships, like especially when you're married. And like, we moved here because of Kim's job. Would I have moved here? No, not in a heartbeat. But the necessity of life brought us here. So, do I regret coming here? No, never. Do I regret not knowing you guys?
Are you
Never.
sure?
Yes, even
Yeah.
it's
We say that so much anymore.
no, I don't think so.
Things
But
have
when
changed.
I first got here,
Yeah.
I heard that a lot. It's like
You used to.
yeah, I heard that a lot. It's like, yeah, okay, we have to do it this way. It's like, okay, why? Well, because.
It's always been done now.
Okay, but do you understand that nobody else wants to do that? Well, that doesn't matter. Well, all right then. But I like influence on you too.
I always remember when Pastor Meckler went here, I always thought, are they talking about us? Because Heidi from German. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sure they did.
Just flat out answer. Just go straight to her face.
I always chuckle.
Well, I just thought it was funny because before they came, people said she didn't speak any English and the kids didn't know English. Yeah,
English. When I was at the airport, they said, "Oh, we're gonna have to have a English second language teacher here because we have these people." And they come, and I thought, "You better do it."
And pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
So, next lessons will be in the next.
A new one.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get them before the 1st of September. We'll see.
Find out then maybe I'll renew. Not renew, get it again because I quit because I thought they can't get it to us sometime.
Oh,
They need to be.
I feel that way too. I've been a little frustrated myself. And I'm not sure if they're going to go to a 3-month. I'm not sure what
I
they're
was going
doing.
to say they've had 3 months. to
Yeah.
get ready.
Yeah,
Get it
they
out.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if their intention is to do maybe 4 months in the fall and then 4 months in the spring. Or 3. I don't
You know,
know.
that makes
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
because
They
they
have
do
help,
have.
yeah.
They do have. I mean, groupings of.
Yeah, they do. They do
Follow a
like in the fall. It's a 3-month Bible
Mhm.
study. So what's surprised me if it's 3 months, and then it might be. I don't know. It might be December, January, February again.
Maybe
and
it
then-
depends on what they choose
Yeah, I
to
don't
do.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess we'll find out. It'll be a new change. So whatever it's what you have to read the cover and see how many months you have to keep it for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. See how many months you have to keep it for. Okay, let's do our prayer at the end. Here we go. O God, give us grace to set a good example to all among whom we live, to be just and true in all our dealings, to be strict and conscientious in the discharge of every duty, pure and temperate in all enjoyment, gracious and generous and courteous to all, so that the mind of Jesus Christ might be formed in us, and all may know that we are his disciples, in whose name we pray. Amen.
That's asking a lot.
The generous and courteous part, or what was part of
Among to be in all our
Dealings,
dealings, yes, every duty.
Yeah. We do our best, right? We do our best. Yeah, that's a kind of an all inclusive thing, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, bye guys. We'll see
Bye.
you next month. Have a good one.